We are going to cover trends for Southern Colorado, for Denver, some mortgage rate news, and then Jenny's got some personal portfolio moves that we are going to make, and he got some debates over as well. Selling one of your rentals this fall, you said, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a great move. Troy?
I respect it completely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know. Interest rates aren't everything, Jeff. Hey, Colorado. I have the crew here to talk about July market stats. So my name is Chris Lopez. I'm joined by Jenny Bayless in Southern Colorado, Jeff White here in Denver, and Troy Howell in Denver as well. Welcome back, everyone.
Hey, Chris.
How's it going?
Wow, I feel like
Mr. Lopez.
I had a little caffeine. Welcome back, everyone. So on the show, we're going to cover the trends for Southern Colorado, for Denver, and then we're going to talk about some mortgage rate news with Troy here from NOVA Home Loans. And then Jenny's got some personal portfolio moves that we are going to make, and he got some debates over as well. And then we're going to go through a new build long-term rental number here in Denver, and then a Fourplex house hack deal here in Denver that Jeff and Troy are working on as well.
Yep.
So we have a full agenda and some fun stuff to talk about. But let's start with the trends. So Jenny, drum roll. What's the trends down south?
Not a whole lot different from last month, so I can keep it short and sweet for everyone. Median sales price went from $499 last month to $499 this month. Still up about 5.7 from last year. And sales are up 1%, and total active is up 10. So everything just keeps kind of moving at a normal pace, I guess. I think normal would, be kind of a good descriptor for it. I don't know what's normal anymore, but
like the new normal?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like more comfortable, I think. Like being able to actually negotiate for homeowners has been great. Have a closing tomorrow on just a regular family moving into a townhome, and we were able to negotiate a good bit off of that in terms of price and concessions and everything, and just back to normal, back to being reasonable. So I like it.
All right. Well, I would say high level, we're seeing some same trends here in Denver, but I wanted to go over a couple of numbers or a couple of slides as well to kind of, I think graphs tell a really cool story. So high level, same kind of trends here that Jenny talked about. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, I'm sharing the screen. If you're listening to the podcast, we'll have these in the blog show notes as well. So July over June for active inventory, we're up about 3.5%. So about 10,200 to about 10,600 homes. So a 3% increase, not a big deal. But the last couple of months, we've looked at like year over year from like May 24 to May 25, June 24 to June 23. 24 to 23. We've seen like 50, 60, 70% year over year increases. So obviously that's a big double digit number. So same thing this month as well, where July 24, July 23, we're at 10,500 this month. Last July, we were about 6,300, which is a 68% increase. So, big number on there. And so now I'm jumping down, and what I'm sharing is, just give credit to them, is the DMAR Market Trends, July 24. They're the Denver Metro Association of Realtors, and they publish great data every single month, just to give a shout out to the sources that I'm using here. So this is the active listings at month's end, and this goes from about July 15 to July 24. So the solid green line here is the combined attached and detached property. So it's all just residential in general. So you can see the green line here coming in, to this summer, it is about going vertical from winter this time to springtime. It's just going straight up to vertical. We're almost at, 11,000 homes at the active in the month. Now, we saw that 60% increase from last year, which is right here. So big increase, but you look at the graph, it's actually not that big. And I'm showing this because I want to go back to, do you guys remember 2019 when interest rates were actually starting to go up and before COVID happened? The market was actually already starting to build inventory back then. And the market peaked about that time right around 8,000 homes. So if you go back to what that was, the year before COVID, and when the market was, I'll say, more naturally increasing in inventory, we were at 8,000 homes back then. Well, now we're at almost 11,000 homes. So, I mean, if you kind of go from the two recent highs, they're not giant increases on there. And so I think that is kind of really illustrates just how low the inventory got during COVID years. Now, I'm going to take one more step back, and this is showing listings and closed. So this is a bigger time frame, again, from the DMAR, where we're going from January 2008 to present day. As a quick reminder, what was going back on 2008, Troy? I'll test your history here.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's a little issues with the mortgage industry.
Yeah, little issues there.
Yeah, to understate it a little bit. Yeah, to say the least.
That was back during the crash. So the world was falling apart. There were a bunch of houses in the market. So the green line is inventory, and back then it peaked about 26,000 active listings on the market. And this yellow orangish line at the bottom shows closed listings. So you can see, we had high numbers, from 2008, 2009, they started trending down. And eventually right around 2013, we kind of got in the market cycle that we're in for years, where we're often in like the 4 to 7,000, 48,000 inventories throughout the seasonality of Denver. Now, coming back over here at the very end, we're our present day, and we look at, wow, we've had this huge increase in inventory, 68% from last July from here to here. We're now here, but when you take back at the, almost a 17, 18 year point of view, it looks a lot different when you compare it to the crash, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the last time when this much inventory, we had this much inventory back in about July 2013. So about 10 or 11 years ago is back when we were seeing at this level of inventory. So I'm sharing this just because we've seen some big growth. I always think it's very interesting to see like contextual stuff and also help give perspective on, number one, how the seasonality works in Denver. And that, hey, while we've seen this big increase, it's nothing like we saw back in 2008.
Yeah.
And, a balanced market for Denver would be about 15 or 16,000 homes on the market. And that would be like balance between buyers and sellers where both are on equal footing. And we still have another, 5,000-6,000 homes to go into a balanced market. So that's my little slideshow there. Kind of, if you guys have any comments on there, but I wanted to kind of I've shown that to a few people. I think it's good to have that good context on there.
Yeah, it's like where you see those fear headlines of like inventory up 70%, foreclosure crash looming. It's more to scare people, and you could manipulate the headlines like that way. Versus if you look at it like this, you see it's up, of course, relative to last year, but in the grand scheme of things, it's still mostly the seller's market.
Yeah.
And
now you were back in the market during that crash. I mean, you got any like data to share or emotions to share?
yeah, just the everybody got a loan days. Fog the mirror came in. I mean, it was crazy town. But it was kind of dramatic when it shut down because all the companies were imploding. A lot of the mortgage companies were collapsing.
Yep.
Couldn't fund some loans. Hear of other loan officers that couldn't fund a loan. So, whole different environment now, though, completely different because the loans aren't fast and loose like they were back then. A lot more criteria and requirements to get qualified. So, we're not going to see that. If the media talks about that or you hear somebody talking about that, they're off on a tangent. That's for sure.
Yeah. Does anyone at the round table think we'll be hitting these 20,000 plus highs like we did in 2008?
No.
Everyone's shaking their head. Yeah. And I think, Jenny, this is pretty similar. I mean, similar trends what you're seeing down south, right?
Yep, just smaller magnitude.
Yeah. Obviously, you guys are a smaller market, but kind of like similar trends. This is how a lot of the front range happen as well. Anyway, we kind of want to show that for active listings since we've seen a big increase year over year. But now as we kind of go month over month, we're kind of seeing typical increases. If we were seeing a big increase from June and July in that, I would be like telling a different story. But since, month over month has kind of stabilized, I think this is just, the big trend from the interest rate spike last year. So last numbers I want to go over on here is to talk about price. Now, year over year, we are at about, on our average price increase is about 2.3%. Our median price increase was about 1.7%. So it's about 2% increase in price overall from July 24 to July 23. So not quite as strong and robust as Jenny is seeing down south, but we're still seeing prices increase overall. Now, what I want to do is actually talk mortgage rates some, Troy. So moving on to our second agenda item on here, and we'll bring up this chart again. So, from like the stock market perspective, I think pretty much the entire stock market is betting on Jerome Powell and the Fed to drop interest rates.
Yep.
The federal funds rate, which doesn't have a direct correlation to mortgage rates in September. But I know there's been some reactions within the mortgage industry. Can you kind of tell us what's happened and kind of what your next few months?
Just high level views. We're starting to see some traction with the employment numbers coming in softer, right? And so we're seeing a little higher unemployment numbers. So inflation is something mortgage-backed securities hate and treasuries hate. So when inflation starts to come down and retract, then we start seeing some better interest rates. So like you said, they're not a direct correlation. Everybody gets confused. It's like, hey, the Fed cut the rate a half. So I get the calls like, hey, rates are a half better, aren't they? And it's like, no, unless you're a bank borrowing from the Federal Reserve or dealing with the Federal Reserve. So, but it does influence it and it does help it. So we're seeing a nice trend improving. The last couple months, maybe a tenth each month improvement, but over the last bit since our last podcast, we've probably seen 0.375%, close to 0.5% improvement.
So
we're mid
month.
Yeah, we're seeing more
3.5% improvement.
Yeah, so we're hovering maybe just a little over 7, the average interest rate to 7 to a little under 7. Now we're more 6.5-ish on that interest rate. By and large, of course, every circumstance and situation is different, but it gives you a general view of what's going on. So seeing some improving it, and I think that's going to do a number on the inventory and stuff. I mean, we're already kind of peaking out, but as we see some good interest rates come into play, I think some of these people on the sidelines are going to start to move in and be players.
Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to leave this chart up on here. Normally we continue to see inventory build throughout the rest of the year. Springtime's the lowest inventory, most active buying, and then inventory slowly builds through summer, fall, and winter time is best time, or worst time to sell. But if you're looking for a deal as an investor, it is the absolute best time to buy.
Jeb talks about that a lot too.
And just every year we pick up some extra good deals that year. So inventory might increase some based on seasonality. I don't know if you guys can see my mouse cursor there, but if interest rates drop, would you expect inventory to start leveling off, or maybe not climbing such as high? I want to crystal ball here.
Yeah, I'm thinking some of that inventory is going to start to drop because it'll start getting soaked up.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought.
Yeah,
Jeff or Jenny, got any?
Absolutely. I think you'll see as interest rates come down, those people on the sidelines just waiting for the rates to drop will absorb some of that inventory and basically, and then the move up buyers too, the ones that are in a 2-bedroom house that have a couple more kids, they want the 4-bedroom house. They'll list their place, and then so there's like a seller and buyer. Yep. So you get those absorbed as well. So it kind of helps both parties.
And then, do you think? Stats nearly impossible to pull, but like how many sellers have been on the sidelines of not wanting to list their property because they were waiting for rates to drop? Do you guys have any sense of that?
I'd say a ton. Yeah. Because if they're locked in at like 4% or less rate,
we still have that.
Why would they? Why would they sell? I guess we'll allude to that later.
Yeah.
With a lower interest rate.
Yeah.
Why would they sell with a low interest rate and then go buy something at a 6+ interest rate?
Because interest rates aren't everything, Jeff.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Troy.
Talk to Jenny.
All right. So let's do that. Let's talk to Jenny here. So moving on to our third agenda item.
Nice segue.
Yeah.
Nice. Well set up. Yeah. Nice setup there, Jeff.
Good job, Mr. Coase. As we were prepping for the podcast today, our agenda, I was like, Jenny, what's going on? She's like, yeah, not too much. But it sounds like you might be making a personal portfolio move, Jenny, of selling one of your rentals this fall, you said, right?
Yeah, when the tenants, when they move out.
Yeah, tell us, tell us where, like, when did you buy the property? What do you think it'll sell for? And why are you selling? But first, what's the interest rate at on there to answer Jeff's question?
Yeah, I just looked it up so I could be specific, 3.625.
3.
So, yeah. So,
That hurts my heart, Jenny.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, same here. But I mean, I feel like I'll come across this for 90% of my portfolio just having good rates on it, just based kind of on luck for that. So I'm trying to make decisions somewhat independent of it, but also at the same time, not really, which I'll kind of get into. So bought the home in 2018, and luckily for you guys, I'm a nerd and I have my my whole history of this property pulled up, so I can answer pretty much any question. Bought it in 2018 for $110,000. I went through one iteration of a rehab. I think it was in 2020, where we put, I think it was about $30,000 into it, and then did a cash out refinance on it. And then have had the same tenants since then until now, and they gave their notice. They've been wonderful tenants for several years, and they gave their notice that they're moving out. So that kind of, what Lon's, thing that he tells everyone, try to reevaluate it when your tenants move out. And that's kind of when, that kind of got the wheels turning for me on that one. So, like I said, 110 purchase in 2018. I think that we could probably sell it for $315.
So almost 3 times you'll sell it for, just under 3x.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, which is close to the majority of our portfolio for, I call them the Gen 1 properties, the ones that we bought, between 2016 and 18, or 19, I guess. So yeah, they've mostly like doubled or 2.5 to 3 times what we bought them for. And looking at every single year that I've held it, between principal pay down and net income, we've brought in a grand total for the inception to date of about $36,000 in net income.
That's after
So I thought
all
that
the
was
expenses, all mortgage payments, just once everything was said
That's
and done.
principal and cash flow. Yes. And then from that, I'm like, oh man, it's kind of a lot, but when you think about it in terms of it tripling, I guess it's not. When you think of it in terms of equity ratio for that. So, and we had redone it in 2020, and it's it's beautiful. So it's, I think, probably a coat of paint and it's ready to go, sort of thing. So that's kind of my dilemma with that, and just kind of looking at it. I mean, I really think that it kind of peaked out. I can't believe that it's worth what it currently is. I don't anticipate the location in which it's at to experience any sort of boom associated with it, other than just typical, annual appreciation. So kind of looking at it from that lens, and then also my expenses are really increasing quite a bit for that. My insurance, so like looking at my insurance, when I bought it, it was $988 a year, and I just got a renewal notice for $2,200. And same with taxes. Let's see, my taxes the first year were less than $400, and I think they're gonna be probably like $800 next year. So it's just, yeah, I mean, it's nothing massive, but it's like, I don't know, just kind of like picking away at the profits. And I don't know if it's necessarily worth it for us to hold on to this asset for the cash flow piece of it, or to just kind of, take the appreciation that we've been gifted and just run with it.
I have one clarifying question before we open up to the panel to
Right.
Yeah.
to roast you or debate you. You
Okay.
said you had $36,000 in net cash flow. Was that just cash flow, or was that cash flow and principal reduction?
Cash flow and principal reduction over 7 years.
How much cash flow would you net if you took out the principal reduction? Just straight cash.
Ooh, that would require me to go to my other
But she has it. That's
My
what's
other-
funny.
my other spreadsheet. Yes.
Yeah, she has that information.
All right. So from the refi to now, what are we in? It'll be September. From the refi to now, that was 11.5 in principal. And then let me pull up my pre-refi. Someone has to remember that for me. 11.5.
I gotcha.
4.6 for the pre-refi in principal pay down. So what's that, 15?
So about
Almost
half
half.
principal, half cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I asked that too because I just say, kind of keep the equity. So okay, about over the lifetime of the property. Here's how I view it. First, I thank you for sharing all that and going through the numbers and having wonderful records. Over what a 7 year hold, you've made $15,000 in cash flow, and you've made what $200,000 in equity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, we'll say a little bit less because we put the 30K
Okay.
cap into it.
So what 170 in equity on there then? So from a very high level, I look at that as just like, well, what did the market give you in return? Like I learned that from my stock trading days is it just meant, hey, what did the market give me? And you take what the market gives you, you take it with a smile or you take it with a frown on your face.
Right.
The market gave you a bunch of appreciation. And I agree with your logic. Take it, run with it, because holding on to it, if the market's been appreciation, well, we all know there's not going to be a huge appreciation bump.
Right.
And cash flow is, what's that? Making that much cash flow, that much equity, that's not a wonderful cash flow return. So I think it's a great idea to take the chips off the table. Are you just selling and cashing out, or are you selling and buying other property?
Yeah. So no. So I think we're going to cash
I know
out,
where
but
this
we're
might
gonna
go.
Keep it within real estate. So I don't want to buy another property, and that's kind of what my husband and I have been debating. He's like, we should do a 1031, then do a cost seg. And I'm like, but you could literally say that to every property that we own. And then we end up with, 50 units. And I'm trying to kind of like cut down a little bit on that. Because, obviously that's the more optimal strategy for it. But I think that we want to take the proceeds from this. And as I mentioned before, we bought a fourplex earlier this year for $660. And I think our debt is like $495, but it's at close to 7.5%. And I think I just want to put it towards that because it's a guaranteed
That's where I was
return.
thinking.
Yeah, it's a guaranteed return. And like kind of thinking, there's a lot of different factors that, anyone could pick apart my logic on this, I guess. But, just really quick napkin math. I was renting this single family home for $1,650 and it's worth $315. And then the fourplex that I just mentioned, we're renting it for a little more than $5K and we bought it for $660. So literally just looking at napkin math on that, the price to rent ratio is superior on that property. So I feel like, all other factors excluded, it's a superior rental property than this one at this current point in time.
No, it's a higher cap rate.
Yeah.
That's, you want to, from a simplistic level, like you want your properties to be a higher cap rate because those are better cash flows or better rental properties.
Yeah.
Cool. I think it's a great move. Troy?
I respect it completely.
Yeah. You approve?
I approve.
All right.
Not that she needs me to approve it, but
Oh, no.
I like her logic.
To approve so she can sell it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Jeff,
I don't know. I don't know. It just hurts me that you would give up a 3.6. We might not see that ever again. So that might be the last time you ever have.
That is a gift. Yeah.
So it's a huge gift. And I understand your logic at moving the equity from here to there into the, higher cap rate property. So then the question is this actually, let me ask you this. Is this your worst, is this the highest equity, worst cash flow property you have?
No, it's just, we just kind of like look at it when tenants are about to leave.
Gotcha.
And there's also a lot of favoritism for the properties themselves too, based, on location or just like sentimentality of it. Like, to be quite honest, like we had a couple of turnovers in some really cool locations like downtown that I could probably put the same analysis on. Like that one I think tripled in value too, but I'm going to keep it because I think it'll still go up in value just based on where it's at, if that makes sense.
Okay, so then you got my approval since this is your not favorite location and you're redeploying it into the higher cap rate one. So,
All right, Jeff.
congrats.
Okay,
He took a little. Jeff took a little more convincing.
I know. I was like,
he had a few more.
my heart was just like,
more questions.
Watching your facial reaction,
Yeah.
entertaining.
So Jeff, with that line of thought, so what is a bigger gift to an investor? The lower interest rate but trapped equity, or untrapped equity that you can now realize? Like in this case, like I can't refinance it using today's value of 315 back to 3.6% rate. So it's like, what do you think is a bigger gift to investors out there? Because I mean,
You're on the
That's
spot.
a tough one.
You're
Yeah.
on the spot.
I think both are good problems to have, right? It's what you want.
absolutely.
No problem.
I think it depends on the investor too, like what stage they're at in their investing career. Because some people, if you're in the growth mode, right, you won't have a lot of equity. You'll just have to or find ways to add value to build that equity or just give it more time. So obviously you're in a different stage of your investing career. So you have options, and that's the great benefit to be in. And I hope every person listening has that choice in the future too, because that's a great. So I guess there's no right answer. It depends. That's
It depends. It's always the right answer.
Yeah, and
Very.
we can save that for a
Very
future
well said.
podcast. That'd be a good future one.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Great
think
question,
that's what's
Jenny.
so hard about real estate, is because there's never a correct answer. And I could tell you my personal answer to something, and someone would tell me, a million reasons why that's the wrong answer for them. And it's like, well, they're both good problems. You can pick the most optimal or the least optimal, and you can pick the most personal and least personal to kind of your situation on that. So it's interesting.
So well said. But I mean, the one thing that I encourage everyone to do is exactly what you did. Review your properties on an annual basis. Every time they're about to come up for lease, just do the same exercise Jenny did and run through, hey, should I keep it? Pros, cons. Can I increase the operational? Can I pivot the strategy? Should I refi? Which generally is a no right now in the current environment. Can I sell it and 1031, or just take the money and do something else with it, or pay down on the debt? Like, always do the extras. Like, that is the one right answer. And then based on where your life is at that time is going to have a big part of dictating where it's at. Now, Jenny, you have, other properties as well. And so there's all other considerations on there as well. Hey, when you have a portfolio, you have a bunch of considerations in there.
What's your
And
blended
that's-
rate, Jenny, right now with all the properties? Do you have
My
that
blended
number?
rate? Oh, I would have to do some calculations. I have it all in a chart, but I don't have a blended rate on it. But yeah, that's kind of like another thing that through going through this exercise, like we have, I don't know, at this point I think 21 units or something, and I'm like, is this one property going to make or break our net worth position in 20 years from now? I don't think so. And I'm just like kind of getting tired of putting out fires. So the more I can kind of just reduce that a little bit is kind of where I'm at right now. So
I agree with her logic. She's thought it through well. She defended herself nicely.
Jenny, you're hard to say no to with your investing decisions. It's like, I want to
good.
break it apart into pieces, but it all makes sense.
Would she have not sold it if we all said no?
No, I think she still did.
I think she would too.
I probably would have. Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
I was kind of waiting to be on, the jury a little bit more for were questioning and, telling me I was being dumb for this. So
Well, I think you
kind
guys
of
are in my
reaffirming
answer
to
to
hear.
that. I'm in favor of it right now. Take the huge
Yeah.
equity.
ROE guy here, so
You guys all know where I stand on there. So
yeah.
You've been
Well, yeah, we
cashing out.
know Chris will sell his 2% mortgage if there's a ton of equity in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Opportunity cost. It's
Yeah.
not just all about the interest rate.
Yes.
Put it on another elevator ride up.
Yes. Exactly.
It's
And headache costs too.
Yeah. Return on hassle.
Is it worth the couple thousand a year to deal with the risk? I don't know.
You'll find out. Report back
I
later.
think for this, the answer is no.
Well, I will find out
cool.
on this because I'm going to cash out.
Yeah, that's true.
Nice. Thanks.
Well, keep us up to date as we get closer to listing it in Q3 or Q4 here. All right, I'm going to pivot over. I know we got a few minutes left on the podcast. So I've got the spreadsheet pulled up now, and I was just talking with a new investor, lives here in Denver, in the position, wants to buy real estate, and just kind of going through the standard strategy call. And he and I've had a lot of great conversations and looking at different ways to invest. Busy professional, high income earning, busy professional, waifus as well. Now they're starting a young family. So they're just in that hey, they make good money, but very little time phase of life. And hey, where can we go out there and buy some real estate? But going out there and doing a room by room rental or a house hack or very hands-on active type strategies, not the right fit. So one of the areas that we are exploring is looking at new builds. I'm a big fan of new builds right now as someone wants to directly own real estate and they want to just have an easy place to park money, since, new builds and resale properties kind of on the same price range right now. Hey, I can buy something that's brand new versus something with how much deferred maintenance from a 1960s build. And right now, builders generally are giving, there more price concessions and sometimes some interest rate concessions as well. So we looked at a bunch of properties, and this was actually the best I found over there from just this one builder. So it's a 5-bedroom, 3-bath property. We looked at some 3 beds, 4 beds, but the 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom properties had the best cap rates, the best rent to price ratio. So this is in the Regis neighborhood of Denver, that part of town. New build, came to the market a few months ago. $775 list price. I think good for $750, and then some concessions based on some updated numbers on here. So I'll run you through this and then get your guys' opinion. So assume $750 with a 3% concession on there, a 7% interest rate. But this should rent for about $5,000 a month for a 5-bedroom. So, going long-term rental. Again, pretty good part of town and just, great spot. I'm assuming, 3% vacancy, 3% rent increase, 4% annual appreciation, 7% PM fee, 4% for the first couple of years of monthly reserves. It's a new build, and so we do have a builder's warranty on there. But here's the kicker. $9,800 a year in taxes.
God.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah. And about $2,200 a year in insurance. Now that insurance I ballparked.
That's probably reasonable.
About right.
Yeah, for new construction, that's a bit cheaper.
And so we plug all that in there, and then 30% down payment. Anticipating back negative $2,000 a year in cash flow. So I'd say about break even, give or take how things pencil out, but slightly negative to break even cash flow. But this ends the day being a 5.3% cap rate property. Still should make about 18% return on the money when you look at appreciation, which is the bulk of that return, some debt pay down, depreciation, but cash flow gets very tough on here. So we're looking at a $750,000 property at a 30% down payment for a break-even cash flow. I thought the numbers would be slightly better when I was first going to run it, but I'll pause there to kind of get your guys' reaction. I thought we'd be at a little bit better cash flow based on a new build property.
When I saw the taxes and the interest rate, I was like, yeah, this thing's going to be negative.
Yeah.
But I thought for a second, 30% down.
Yeah.
Possible that you could
create
do a
some
little
space.
small positive. I mean, $5,000 for a new build, that's definitely a higher level rent, which makes sense. It's a huge place, 5-bed, 3-bath. I thought it's possible, but when I saw the rate and the taxes, it's going to be negative.
The taxes are
It eats you up.
Yeah, that's the hard part. So, And part of it too is always we look at, room by room rentals are generally the best cash flowing right now in the market. But I mean, what? Ballpark about $1,000 a month per room per rental, right?
No, 8 to 900.
8 to 900. Okay,
Yeah,
so
per
even
room.
so that was part of the reason I was leaning towards this. Hey, this is really no play here to go to maybe room by room rental.
Yep.
Because it'd be about the same or even slightly less in rental income.
And older property too.
Yeah.
Usually the ranch.
Well, I'm talking about
60s.
this. Could you take a new build and convert this to room?
Oh
by
yeah.
room?
So
And
this
could you
one
squeeze more
1,000 to
revenue out of it?
1,200 per room.
Okay.
Because it's usually the rooms are bigger. There's more bathrooms. Everything's new.
Yep.
So I would say low end, you could say $1,000 a room.
Okay.
So 5K. So that's
about the same.
yeah, maybe you squeeze a
small
little
bump.
more. Yeah.
Okay.
But then you have to deal 5 roommates.
That's what I was gonna say.
Versus
Now you got
1.
five-
So I'd
five
rather,
leases.
for someone that wants hands off, I would say just do 1 tenant versus 5.
Yeah.
Especially on that end of 5 roommates paying $1,000 or more a month, a little higher expectations than just like a little flimsy house they're paying $800.
Flimsy house.
That's a little basic.
Troy, Jen, you guys got any comments on here?
Yeah, I have a question. The taxes being so high, is it in a metro district, or any insight as to that? Just seems extremely high to me.
Yeah, I assume it is. I can't recall if it is on this property, but just based on how high the taxes is, I assume it is.
Yeah, I've been seeing that
Yeah.
with some of these new construction. The taxes are
And this is a
pretty hefty.
this is a small, I mean, there were probably 15 or 18 units in here. So,
yeah, makes sense.
No.
I can't recall. I didn't think of that much in there. This was just some high level looked at a bunch. And this was the best out of the half a dozen I looked at.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now this
I
is
guess
all
I
generally
don't-
infill
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Jenny, what?
Oh, I was just gonna say I don't mind the property based on this person's strategy. If you could find a similar, maybe slightly older home that's not in a metro district to reduce on those taxes.
You could cut that tax in half.
Yeah, so here's a problem with that, though. You're right. You can cut the tax in half. So let's say that will reduce it by $4,500. But then what's that going to do to deferred maintenance and CapEx?
Right.
I mean,
That's
great.
gonna
You save it
move
on
up on-
here.
yeah.
I mean,
Trade
I
it
feel
off
like
on the
you're gonna
other.
Pay that off. And then, I mean, we've all had CapEx more than $5,000 a year for something. How's your new roof coming along, Jeff? Exactly, right? I'm saying it's one of those trade-offs where it's like, yeah, that was part of my thought process, but I had just been, having some really good debates with this investor. Just hey, let's
Yeah.
debate every side and figure out the right way to get you in the market. But there's my debate, like, yeah, you can do that, but I put my hat on. Well, I would rather probably still pay higher taxes than have 6 years deferred maintenance potentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going with him. He's a busy professional. Young family, so time
Is
very
important.
valuable to him, and return on hassle as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's it look like for the appreciation rate? Now you got a small community here for a new build versus an existing.
I don't know. I don't know any historical trends on there. Now we're seeing in year over year we're at like a 2 or 3% appreciation. I think in Denver. My gut says new builds will appreciate faster.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have any data to back that up. That's just because, hey, would you rather live in a brand new place or a 1960s place? Most people live in a brand new place.
Right.
So I assume the appreciation would go faster. And that's why I put it at 4% versus like 2 or 3%.
Because
But I don't have any data to back that
yeah,
up.
and I don't have any data for my feeling, but generally speaking, I've always felt, especially with these bigger new build communities, a lot of times until it's built out completely, your competition, if you turn around to go sell it a year down the road, is the new builds down the street.
Oh, yeah. This
And so
isn't like a
This
giant.
this is more
Richmond-
captive.
Yeah,
because
this
you got
isn't like
15 units.
Yeah, this isn't a Richmond Homes,
Yeah.
4-phase build out in Aurora. This is
Right. But I'm
15,
just talking from
18, yeah.
that broader new build
Oh, yeah.
perspective. A lot of times you're dealing with that new construction down the street, and your resale is like 2 years, your carpet's a little dirty. Maybe you got
Yeah.
the blinds up and the yard in, but people like new, and they'll
Yeah.
pay a little bit more for the new.
So my theory on here for the strategy was, hey, for as far as where this investor is talking about, life cycle phase, hey, simple place to
Yeah.
park some money, and he, cash flow is not priority to him. He just wants long-term wealth creation. They have 2 good incomes. Hey, park the money, and then hey, if the market really gets heated up, then in 3 to 5 years or 3 to 7 years, sell the property and 1031 into something better. But just say, put in there, plus after 5 or 7 years, You start getting some CapEx items on new builds or some things like that, but exit out of there. So that was a strategy we're playing, and I just wanted to share the numbers. And again, new builds, if you go out there and really hunt a lot, you can find some, hey, whatever deal a builder is doing. This was just a builder I talked to last week, and what I saw in their portfolio. And they also give me, hey, here's list price, and here's the real numbers we'll sell at.
Yeah.
Nice.
I got that spreadsheet as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that ties into Jenny. Your situations are variable. Yeah, that's the beauty of real estate is you can customize it to what you feel comfortable with, what your plan is, short term, long term.
Yeah. You guys ever get the question of, what do you do, Jenny, when they say, would you buy this? What do you tell your clients?
I tell them yes or no.
Really?
I've many times said no to things.
Okay.
You, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm pretty fair. I'm like, no.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if I said for like their goal
say,
set.
hey, based on a rental,
Yeah.
hey, there's yes or no, and then hey, there's based on me where I'm at my phase in life. Like I give my
That's
both
fair, too.
answers is like, hey, like yes, I'd buy that, but I got 3 little kids right now, so like it's a good rental, but I would not buy it right now. But if you could do this, but that's why I like talking to you guys because we all just give frank, honest opinions. Like, hey, I mean, how many we've all killed deals with our clients? Like, oh, hey, cool, we couldn't get the finish line, but like we got the inspection report back, we underwrote it. I think of the Gladiators, thumbs down. No, kill the deal.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I know we're running along here, so rapid fire here, Jeff, and we'll go into more details next week. Give us the teaser on a fourplex house hack that I know you are circling.
Yeah.
You are circling as an agent for a house hacker.
So it's in City County of Denver. It was listed at $935,000 originally 3 months ago. So way over in the South Park Hill neighborhood next to Colfax. So kind of east of City Park over there to give you perspective, or downtown Denver for the listeners. And the story on it goes, they overpriced it, trying to think that someone just buy it because of, it's South Park. They try to sell in the South Park Hill neighborhood, like these $3 million huge houses like 2 blocks away. Definitely not that. But they try to play it off that. So they dropped it $100K, and then they just dropped it $200K. So it went from $935, $835, $635. And now where it's going to land is somewhere in the $650 range for a 4-unit in Denver County. Leave it there.
Yeah. Good tease.
That is a good cliffhanger. I like it.
Leave it there.
We'll go into more details on that in next month's podcast because, again, we're seeing a lot of fourplexes up here for house hacking, a lot of fourplexes down south with Jenny for rentals. So, that's where a lot of the trends are going as well. So we'll talk more
It's making
deals
sense.
next month. So, all right, wrap it up. This was another great podcast, guys. Appreciate you fitting your schedule. If you guys need help finding house hack deals or high cash flowing credit deals in Denver, Jeff is your man. If you need help with financing and loan, Troy is your man with Nova Home Loans. If you guys want to go out there and find a great traditional long-term rental, especially down south, there's a lot of investors there, Jenny is your woman. So I think you guys want to reach out to them, contact details in the show notes, or reach out to me. But Jenny, Troy, Jeff, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.